Right, I'm going to rein in the rambles because Lord knows I do enough of those. I certainly did enough of them in the last episode that came out, where I was rambling on about the fact that self-sabotage and a fear of season 3 has held me back from releasing season 3. And on realising that, I've actually decided it's not even called season 3, so I can support myself in my ridiculousness and paralysis and all the rest. I can't believe I sat on this interview. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited for you to hear it. My next guest really needs no introduction, the wonderful Lucy Greenwood. I will leave her to chat away. She covers some incredible topics, so much that I relate to, but I'll come back to that at the end when I will also be sharing a very special treat for you all. And a massive thank you to Sessions, who is editing this episode and, my editor going forward, helping me do the things that I cannot do. Well, I cannot do well, who is probably cursing the day I was born because this bit is recorded on my phone. But for good reason, because I'm in Birmingham for the Alien Nation tour. It's the third leg of the tour. I'm so excited. Birmingham, Bristol, London, Norwich. That's the right way around, yeah. And Birmingham tonight is sold out and London is sold out. So grab tickets for Norwich and Bristol whilst they last. It's very exciting. And yeah, I can't wait to see all of you who are joining tonight at Tonight, Josephine, tonight. Enjoy the interview. Hi, I'm Laura and I am ADHD AF. Though blatantly obvious, the late discovery, diagnosis and treatment at 38 for severe combined type ADHD in 2022 not only improved, but genuinely saved my life, which I have since dedicated to fighting for change amidst the global ADHD crisis. As the acronym suggests, I swear like a sailor, and each episode will contain sensitive subject matter, so please always read the description before diving in, where you will also find a link to resources for support. These crucial conversations with experts by lived experience are shared to inform, validate, shame eradicate, and unite the ADHD community, with a fair few laughs along the way. I've been labelled too much all my life, but finally I celebrate my too muchness and use my justice sensitivity to let the world know that ADHD presents differently in each individual. Self-diagnosis is valid and that ADHD is not a trend. ADHD is real. And I want all ADHDers of all genders to know you are not alone. The leopard is the symbol of Aberdeen, Scotland, where this podcast began. It also symbolises bravery, the reclaiming of power, and I'm a total hun. So leopard print has become the uniform of the ADHD AF community, uniting to support each other and push for change, which together we can make happen. We are the leopard print army. Hear us roar.
Hi.
Hi.
After rearranging last week, and because I was travelling, I've ended up doing it again. I'm like, like the most ADHD thing you've done this week. I'm like, basically this.
I'm totally happy. It's lovely to speak to you. What's your dog's name again?
It's called Louis.
Hello, Louis. So we are going to start with a quick fire round. Don't worry if you go off piece, because I likely will. And then we'll dive into the main ones.
Yeah.
Name.
My name, Lucy Greenwood.
Lucy Greenwood. And what are your pronouns?
She and her.
She, her. And age, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I'm 35.
And location, in a car with Louis the pup.
Yes. I am on my way from Brighton to Manchester.
And where are you from?
I'm from Barnsley in South Yorkshire originally.
Okie dokie. And occupation, I think that basically my understanding of the listenership is that every single person who listens to this podcast will definitely know who you are. But go on, tell us.
So I'm the founder of Lucy and Yak clothing brand from the UK.
She is Lucy of Lucy and Yak. How incredible is that? What is your favourite film?
Oh, my favourite film. Do you know what? I think When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, that's a good one. And your favourite animal, is it dogs?
Yeah, definitely dogs.
And well, I mean, I don't necessarily know the answer to this, but dopamine dresser or calming neutrals?
Calming neutrals. Well,
Mm.
sometimes dopamine dressing, but I'm very particular with the colours that I wear. Like I go through phases, like my favourite colour at the minute is orange,
Oh,
like
yeah.
quite bright orange. So I've been loving that for a while, but mostly quite neutral.
Childhood nickname.
Oh, did I have one? I don't remember how, I don't think I had one.
What city in the world are you most like?
I want to say probably Mumbai in India.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
India resonates with me so much. I always feel like I should have been born there. It's chaos and I love it.
Attack of the senses, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was in India for 6 months. Oh, look, I've gone off piste already. But I was like, every single day, there was something so ridiculous that I was really stressed at one point. I'd be like, "Oh." And then every single day, there was something so magical and so amazing. I was like, this is the best place on earth.
Yeah,
Like,
it really
yeah,
is. It
yeah.
really is.
Planning, love it or loathe it?
Love it.
Yeah, same. Okay, so this one, as far as I understand, isn't something that you've spoken about before. ADHD diagnosis status.
I haven't been diagnosed.
So you are self diagnosed.
Yes.
Yeah, because self diagnosis is valid. It's absolutely valid
Yeah.
and it has to be in such a broken system. But you're self diagnosed ADHD.
Yes.
Yes.
I've spoke about it to friends and stuff that have got ADHD or autism, and I've thought about whether I feel like I want to get diagnosed, but I don't actually feel like I need to. I feel like there's enough information out there. I don't feel like I need to take meds or anything like that at the minute. I feel quite comfortable with where I'm at, so I've just never really felt like I needed to.
No, and that's fantastic. It's for everyone to do what they need to do, what they want to do, what best supports them and their needs. I think it's fantastic. And I'm really grateful that you reached out. And I'm really grateful that you're here to say that, because I know so many people in the community were massive fans of yours anyway. That for you to stand and say it's like, we can say it till we're blue in the face, self-diagnosis is valid. But for you to say it's like, yes, go on, Lucy, go on.
Well, do you know what? I think it's my community that's helped me realize I've got it almost because like
Yeah.
the brand's attracted a lot of neurodiverse people, and I'm like, why? Why is that? And then people in the business are like, why do you think?
It's so true. So on the Planet ADHDF, so on the Discord forum, we've got a channel called Dopamine Dressing, and I swear to God, every single picture, if not like pretty much all of them, are people wearing your clothes.
Yeah,
100%.
it's
Yeah.
so funny.
And I've worn one of my jumpsuits and
Yes.
I'm representing. What do you think your? I mean, this isn't actually on the list, but I'm going to ask you. What's your inspiration? Like, you've
Oh,
led this whole, well, for all of your designs, like so many people are wearing the different jumpsuits with different jumpers underneath and the cut of the trousers, the length and things like that. When I look at it, if you want my input,
yeah. Yeah, I like to
when
know
I
how
look
it's
at it,
perceived from the outside. It's interesting.
I see it as really punk, actually. The length of the trousers, especially with DMs, like I see that as really punk. Is that?
Do you know what? So a lot of the shapes have been inspired by vintage. So like a lot of my shopping that I have always done in my life has always been through vintage. And then you find that amazing vintage piece and then you can't get it in any other colours or prints or anything like that. So it's kind of been like find a shape that I love that I don't feel like exists like currently. Maybe it obviously did back, years ago, but how can we sort of bring that back but offer it in lots of different colours and prints? Because we actually started out selling vintage clothing before we created Lucy and Yak. So that was the transition. And every time I found like something amazing vintage, I was like, I love that, but it's just not the right colour. Or I love that bit, you're just not my
Yeah.
size. So it's like, right,
Yeah.
let's just make something like that then.
Oh, I love it so much. It's really like Vivienne Westwood as well, Queen of Punks. That's what she did, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
take the good cuts and everything of the old and bring it into the new.
yeah.
I love it. I love that. That's not what I was meant to ask you at all, but here we are. This discovery of your own neurodivergence, how do you feel about it? Has it only been positive, or have you? A lot of people have said they've found it quite confronting, or there's been some grief there. How do you feel about it?
So how I ended up sort of finding out was I've got a friend who's autistic and she got diagnosed, and we spoke about that a lot. And then I realized I don't really know much about this at all. So I ended up watching loads of videos about autism, and then I ended up going, well, I also don't know anything about, and autism didn't resonate at all. Any of anything
Mm.
that was being said on any videos I watched just didn't really resonate. And I thought, oh, I'll just go and try and understand what ADHD is then now as well, in more depth. And then I was like, oh my God, tick, 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 tick. And I was like, I fit all of those. And I think for me, it's been more, I think there was a little bit of like, there's a little bit of sort of, oh shit, maybe I can never change that thing about myself. Like, being organized, being on time, being,
Mm.
like you said there, planning ahead. I've always wished I could plan stuff and stick to it, and I'm just terrible at it. And so I think it's kind of positive in a way that you can kind of go, do you know what? I'm just never going to be able to change that about myself.
Yeah.
So it's fine. I'm just going to have to
It's
accept
about
it.
acceptance.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's funny that you say that actually, because autism and ADHD are the most commonly co occurring conditions. And so there's a lot of people in the community like, oh, yeah, I see a lot of autistic traits. And I'm like you, I'm like, oh, no, I don't. I
None.
don't see
No.
any. Like, I've got the only one is special interest. I could get really excited about something, but then that's just a crossover. That's not
Yeah.
exclusively autistic. It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we're heavy on the ADHD side.
Yeah, no, and I think I've been speaking to people who have got both, and they're like, it can be so challenging because they're
Yeah,
conflicting a lot of the time. They're quite different, and so one will
yeah,
raise its head, and then it's like the other ones. Because I've got a friend who she's about to just go through the diagnosis for ADHD as well, and she was like, I want to talk loads, but then it burns me out because
yeah.
actually the autistic side of my brain is like,
Wants to,
yeah,
yeah,
I need to just sit on my
yeah,
own and be in a quiet room.
yeah, absolutely. So that is what led you to suspect it, is that you did your own research. And now the more that you've looked into it, you just feel like acceptance. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of nice as well because there's a lot of people in my business that have got autism or ADHD, and when I started speaking about it a little bit more to people internally, they were all like, "Yeah, yeah, we've always thought that, Lucy." But like, obviously, they were like, "It's not our place to diagnose you," but we've always thought that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Why do you think it was missed till later in life?
Well, I suppose so. When I was younger, when I was at school, probably the classic one is, always misbehaving, got so much potential, but just won't apply herself. Always sort of really,
Could try harder.
yeah, really rebellious as a teenager, and I think in a way I can't say that it's difficult because I think I'm in such a position now that I can't really look back and say it's really hard to look back and go, I regret that, or I wish that had have happened, or I wish that
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things I think how I sort of lived my life when I was younger that I think was because I had ADHD, that I had a lot of fun being naughty at school and stuff. But then when I started going into the sort of working world, I just couldn't hold down jobs. I was always late. I would get fired, or I would sort of do so much wrong in the job that I would just panic and not go back, kind of thing, because I just couldn't confront it.
Yeah.
And I actually worked it out when I first started listening. Like, I worked out how many jobs I'd had in my life, and I think it worked out at like I'd had a new job every sort of 3 or 4 months. Some of them had lasted longer
Wow.
than that, but so some might be for a year, and some might only be a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. But they were just I just couldn't hold
Yeah.
down a job, and so now being in a position where I can do things my own way, just it's so different. And so since I've sort of feel like I've got it, since I found out and feel like I've got ADHD, I haven't felt like it's constraining me in a way that maybe some people do because I've not because I've got my own schedule.
Yeah.
It's normal in Luciac that everyone's late to meetings because I'm always late to meetings, and now that's just precedent throughout the whole business, and we're fine with it. We're just like, oh well, we this. There must be another meeting that's run over, and everyone's just fine with it. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of it's nice because you can sort of set your own pace with it. But when you've got to work for someone else, then you.
It's a different story.
It
It's funny because I guess the question that I normally ask is, what do you feel undiagnosed ADHD has cost you? And when you look at it objectively like that, you could say, well, it's cost you a career, but it hasn't.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what's difficult, isn't it? In the situation I'm
Yeah.
in, it's like, yeah, it could have because I went to uni and I actually studied fashion at uni. I did a business fashion course, but then just ran as far away from the fashion industry as possible because I just didn't like
Did
how it
you?
how it like uni was probably like the starting point of seeing what the industry was like. And then I thought, that's just not me. I can't work in that environment at all. It had
Mm.
such a bad reputation and probably still does in a lot of ways. And then it was sort of like 10 years later that I ended up never worked in fashion, never touched fashion again, like in that period in between. And then ended up doing this like later down the line. And my mum and dad always used to say, what are you going to do with your life, Lucy? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And I never really felt ambitious. Like people would say, what's your ambitions? What's your career goals? And I'm like, I don't really know. I struggle to think beyond what's going on right now. I can't I can't plan what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
in a way, I don't know
It's
if
a
I was,
really common trait, Like I remember being at school and just it sounds like the most ridiculous thing, but I really didn't understand that at some point it would be over.
yeah.
And like what I was doing there was to set me up, but
Oh,
none of it
yeah.
occurred to me. I was just at school forever, and that was it.
Yeah.
I don't
When
know.
people start talking to you about pensions and stuff, you're like, what? I better hope I saw something out that means I don't need a pension because I ain't got one. My dad used to be like, you need to stay in a job, Lucy, just for a little bit. So you can start building up a pension pot. And I'm like, nah.
Nah, no, absolutely not. What I suspect is it's not just as, oh, I just fell into it and whatever, is that perhaps part of why you're so accepting of what you've discovered about yourself is because you are very self aware. And so, actually, along the way, the resilience that you have, you've kind of been supporting yourself in your own needs as you've gone. Do you think?
Yeah, that does resonate. Yeah, because I do feel like I've always, I don't know, like I've never, I can be a bit of a worrier. I can over worry and overthink stuff. But most of the time, I think I don't know if I just like lowered the expectations so much in my own mind though as well. I don't know if there was a little bit of that. It's almost like, oh yeah, I can't see myself in those positions or like
Mm.
in a career that lasts forever kind of thing. And so I almost just was like, oh, I'm fine, just having odd job here, odd job there, just doing what I wanted. And I think, but then I always knew I wanted to travel. So then I went traveling, and I feel like that was a few years of, I don't know, I always feel like traveling is like a really nice way of being like, I'm kind of being a bit of a bum, but but people think it's cool.
Soaking in culture, cultivating, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like one of those that it's like, oh yeah, they're traveling. It's fine, they're not working. It's like what
Yeah,
time
yeah,
it's
yeah.
acceptable not to have a career, isn't it, when you're traveling?
Yeah.
What I found really interesting was though, I think it's other people's judgment that holds you back a lot of the time. And I think it's
Mhm.
what, the people saying you need a career, you need a pension, all of that stuff. It's like that's what stresses you out. And then when I
Yes.
went traveling and I managed to like take myself away from all of that and still stayed in touch with a couple of friends, but I was really like, I remember not having a mobile phone for a long period of my traveling. I had to go
Yeah.
into like internet cafes and go on Facebook to message people. And so like no one knew what I was doing. So when I started losing yak, I didn't tell anybody. It was just like, I'm just going to try this thing. And I didn't really run it by anybody that could then tell me, oh, that's not going to work out.
That's not going to
Yeah.
work.
And as soon as I didn't have other people's voices in my head, it was like, oh my God, the world's like, I can do what I want. Like,
That's
yeah,
amazing. Because so much of it, like a lot of what I always talk about is not feeling like a fit into society, feeling quite alien from society. And actually it is all of these rules or constraints where you're just a bit like, but why though? And I don't know if I can do that. And I'm going to get that wrong. And I don't know. And all of this stuff is like, actually, if you can step out,
yeah,
well, both of us, because I did the same thing, have stepped out, and that let us be a bit freer and able to have the confidence to venture forward and do things. But for what really needs to happen is we just need to not have such rigid restraints on everybody of how
yeah,
things are done in education, in the world of work. And
yeah,
hopefully, with people with awareness being raised about neurodiversity, then people, the weirdos like us,
yeah.
can thrive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because honestly, it does make you look back and go, like, the education system's not structured to cater to everybody and it shouldn't be so rigid. I mean, I don't think it caters to many people, to be honest, but I think it
Yeah.
can be more difficult for some than others. But I just think that like, even myself, like thinking about having kids and how do that. And I'm like, I just don't think I could send them to school in that way because
Yeah.
I don't know if neurodiversity it's genetic or not, but I always think if my kid's anything like me, school will just be an absolute waste of time for them. I had fun at school, I didn't have a terrible school time, but I just had a lot of fun and didn't really do any work.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
When to socialise,
like
yeah.
I could have been doing anything else. But, you know, I didn't really gain anything from it in that way. So you might as well just get the
Yeah.
kids out socialising, doing fun hobbies and stuff with other
Yeah.
rather than
Well, you could just put them to work.
Yeah.
Teach them to sew, right?
Exactly.
You've got an empire.
Yeah.
Greetings from Planet ADHD AF, the online peer support community. If you're finding this podcast helpful and you are in a position to do so, I invite you to join us and become a member. For the cost of around just 2 takeaway coffees per month, membership gives you access to over 50 quid's worth of monthly support, including access to the private Discord server to connect with literally like-minded legends to lean on and learn from 24/7. Also, daily body doubling in all different time zones, Zoom chats supported by ADHD coaches, blogs, vlogs, accountability squads, self-care club, a monthly Zoom quiz, and more. Peer support is invaluable when coming to terms with a later in life diagnosis. Self-diagnosis is valid. I spent my life feeling like an alien, only to discover there's a whole planet of us. So you are not alone. Jump aboard the spaceship and join us on Planet ADHD AF. What do you struggle with? What ADHD struggles can you identify in yourself? You said you worry a lot.
Yeah.
Do you relate to kind of the RSD side? Is there anxiety or is it?
Yeah, massively. I've had periods, especially it's been difficult in a way because I think before losing celiac, I really just kind of dodged responsibility. I think that's why I wasn't holding down jobs as well. I just used to avoid any form of responsibility, which then allowed me to not worry so much. I didn't think I was a worrier, but then when I started losing celiac, there's been some periods that just got so extreme. And my partner who I started it with, my business partner, he used to say to me, "You're so self-deprecating. Like, why do you not think you're good enough for this?" He's like, we'd hire different people for different jobs. And, you know, if I hire someone really senior who knows something that I don't, then yeah, maybe it's normal for them to make me feel a little bit like insecure in the conversations there. But I would, you know, I'm talking like junior people straight out of university, and they would have sometimes stronger opinions than me on what the brand should be. And I'd just back down because I just felt like I didn't have the confidence to, I didn't think
or
I
the
was
self-belief
right.
that you would know best.
Yeah. And my partner used to get so frustrated because my partner actually, my business partner, he's been diagnosed with autism, and so we're polar opposites in that. And he's like, I know I'm good at this particular thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at everything. And I think that can be one of the differences between the two things. He's like, knows he's really good at some stuff and he's really sure about it. And he's like, no one's better than me at this thing. Whereas, so we used to sort of argue a lot about that because I'd almost like try and rein him in because I'm like, oh, no, because I'm panicking. He's not good enough as well. I'm like, we're in a relationship.
This couldn't possibly succeed because it's part of me. Yeah.
And it's funny actually because my mum's like quite extreme compared to me. And I feel like she probably does have it, but it's one of those things that, you know, she's from a generation where it wasn't even just going undiagnosed. Like no one had even talked about it. So
No.
I think it's certainly been helpful though, knowing that that's what it is, knowing that it is ADHD, because I think that does help me it helps me to catch it. Not every time, but sometimes it's helped me to go, hang on a minute. No, you do know what you're doing. You know what you're doing with this thing. Your head's just telling you don't. Ignore that.
They say that on average, a neurodivergent child hears 20,000 more negative things than a neurotypical by the time they're 10. So that's what it is that we've all got these reserves. All the times we've been told, like you said at school, could do better, all of that stuff. We've got the reserves of it. So it takes very little for our brain to find the evidence to go, oh, no, you can't do that. Like you've got all the reserves back there.
That makes a lot of sense actually, because you like all the way through school, that is like, it's not good enough. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Everyone else around me is.
It's so terrible, isn't it? Because I think that is part of why it's just so important, or the difference that can be made if it's identified younger.
Yeah, Yeah,
because then you
massively.
don't have all of that. You're just supported in your difference and
Yeah,
leaning into the skills that you do have instead of constantly chastised for the ones that you don't.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, but you know
Yeah.
what? I know people now who've got kids in it's becoming more, people are understanding it better and schools are doing more, I think. But
Yeah.
schools turning around saying, we can't do anything with this kid. You're just gonna, you're just gonna have to find another way of educating them. And it's like, what? You just gave up on them,
Yeah.
kick them out.
Yeah.
You know, that what message is that sending? That you're like, I mean, I didn't get kicked out of school. I managed to somehow not get totally expelled, but
Somehow.
somehow.
So you've said that now you've self-identified, self-diagnosed ADHD. When you can see those patterns of behavior happening, it gives you that little step to kind of identify it and go, hang on a minute,
Yeah.
I don't need to do this anymore. So would you say that that is the best way that you support yourself in your struggles? Like a lot of people with ADHD, for example, we struggle with sleep. Like, do you struggle with that? Or
I
is,
actually don't. I mean, I go through phases when there's real stress, but actually sleep's something I almost like crash, the opposite. Like
oh,
I
wow.
crash and I could sleep for days sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I guess ADHD rarely strikes alone, so to speak. So there's a lot of commonly co-occurring conditions. And so like insomnia or OCD,
yeah.
a lot of us struggle with like eating disorders or addiction issues. Do you have any other lovely things that go along
Oh,
with
I
it?
mean,
Or
addiction issues is certainly. I've never been. I mean, not extreme addiction where
yeah,
I've really destroyed my life through it. But I've always had a problem with alcohol throughout my life. I
yeah,
just used to get absolutely wasted all the time. And that was all the way through school, all the way through college, uni, right through. Oh, it was, do you know what? The first time I had a break from alcohol was when I first started losing yak, and I realized that the stress, because I've been in India and India's not a very drinking country. So
culture,
I'd actually
yeah,
not done any drinking while I was there. And I'd not kind of like, just kind of not realized. And then came back and started drinking again. And I sort of realized that the stress of running the business the next day, having a hangover was just like hell. I was like, I can't. And I noticed it was lasting. That was the first time I noticed that, yeah, you've got the physical effects the day after, but then the mental effects can last like a week. And I was like, this
yes,
is not worth it. So I had a really big break from alcohol and then kind of started drinking again, like after COVID. And it always just seeps back in. I'm like, I'll just have one glass. And I've just never been one of those people that can just do one glass of wine with my
no,
or
me
a
neither.
pint after work. It's always like 10 and I'm blackout drunk.
Yeah,
I've also, I mean, I've always been a smoker my whole life. I've always trying to quit smoking. But and then I've done a lot of recreational drugs in my life. I used to party hard
yeah,
when I was younger, and it was just I used to think that I was super confident. Just like, yeah, I'm really confident. I find it really easy to make friends. And I'm like, it's because you're always pissed, Lucy. Like literally always pissed or high. I'm like, well, of course you're confident.
it's so funny, isn't it? How you look back on things with different eyes. It's so ridiculous. Like, I'll be honest, I think one of the reasons why ADHD was missed in me is because I was hungover for 20 years.
Yeah,
I'm joking. I just thought, well, that's why I always lose things, and that's why I'm always
yeah.
late, and that's why it's because
Just
it's
a bit different
hungover.
because I'm always
Yeah.
hungover. Yeah, yeah. I thought exactly the same actually, and I think that was it when I stopped drinking and had that break from it. You start realizing what's going on in your head, and you're like, my head's absolutely crazy. What is it doing? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
why is it worrying about all these things and stuff? Because I just used to be. I didn't even give myself time to recover from the last time I had a drink.
No.
It would just be constant.
Constant. And that's the thing is that they say that alcohol exacerbates the symptoms of ADHD. But also, so then you've got to deal with the fact that you're being extra impulsive or extra risky or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that coin is like the aftermath of it. It is going to last longer to get over. And I totally feel you. It's like what came to my head was when you can't face opening an email,
Oh,
you're like,
yeah. 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 Oh, I do it when if anybody messages me from work being like, Lucy, can I give you a ring? I'm like,
what's happened?
yeah. Or they'll go, are you coming into the office today? Can I talk to you? I'm like, no, you need to tell me right now. I can't wait until
What is
the office.
it?
I know what
Yeah.
it is right now. Because I'm just been stressing about this. Like, oh, I'm just asking if I can have such and such day off. For God's sake, don't do that to me. My head goes, the building's burnt down. Like,
Yeah, that's it. Everything's over. It's done. It's done. Oh, so that's good. So now, so do you feel like you do drink less now? Are you able to manage that after you've had that break? It's like, okay, I
Yeah,
get it.
I've had two like solid breaks, and now I will drink some, and sometimes it does end up like I'm drunker than I wanted to get, but it's a lot rarer now.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
do that, then I'm like, right, I have a couple of months off again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it starts going that way, but yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like I've got a pretty balanced way with it now.
Yeah. That's amazing. What would you like the world to know about ADHD if you could bust a misconception, like the wider world that don't necessarily know much about it?
Hmm. I think it would be that everyone's experience with it is different. There's varying degrees of, I suppose, privilege in where you're at in your life as well, because that's what I've always thought. Since I've found out, I've not felt the need to get diagnosed, and I've not felt the need to, you know, change much in my life, because I am in a position since I found out where I can create my own schedule. Which, if you've got to live by someone else's schedule, that's like almost impossible to like just get by in life. You're going to keep losing your job. You're going to upset your friends. You're going to all of this stuff. I mean, I'm lucky. I think neurodiverse people attract neurodiverse people, because that's when I first started finding out. I'm like, why are all my friends neurodiverse and I'm not? And they're like, I think you might be. And I think we're drawn to each other because we, probably feel like we don't fit in society. So you tend to find each other in similar
The
circles. So,
misfits,
yeah,
the magical misfits. Do you know what, though? It's funny because you're exactly right. And what you say is that we are all different and our experience of it is different, because also there are some people that I've spoken to that need their job, because
yeah,
if they didn't have that structure, they couldn't get up and they couldn't go. But I'm exactly like you. I can't
yeah,
keep doing the same thing. I can't, feel
yeah,
like somebody's looking over my shoulder and am I doing this right? Or, I
yeah.
need to do it my own way. You're absolutely right. People with ADHD tend to have lower levels of dopamine in their brains. How do you get yours?
Since I've stopped drinking as much and had those breaks with it, I found so many hobbies that I love. I've found like quite a few extreme sports that I've started getting into, like
Oh, wow. Like what?
surfing. I love surfing. It's the
Oh, wicked.
hardest thing. I just started getting into it at the start of this year, and it's one of those things again where I don't know like when I was younger, I grew up in quite a working class area, so we weren't, my parents never really took us to do anything like that cost too much money, and now I'm like 35, I'm like, oh, bloody hell, I'm trying to learn this new thing that, because to go alongside it, you can get like surf skateboards to help you like learn to
Oh,
learn to
wow.
do the movements out of the water when you can't get to a wavy beach. And I'm like, I feel so stupid on a skateboard at this age, like falling over with my knee pads on and stuff. But it's just like I'm just sort of pushing myself to do stuff like that, because it's the one thing that just it switches me off completely. Like the
Yeah.
beers would do in the pub would just bring you into the moment of what you're doing there, but then all the crap that comes with it's so awful afterwards. Whereas getting into a few different extreme spots, like I've just started trying snowboarding as well now, so I've been going to like an indoor one near London. So kind of stuff like that, I find that that's the only time that actually I just completely switch off. I've always liked exercise, but I find like the gym boring.
Yeah.
Yoga's all right. I feel like it does something, but it's not extreme enough. I think I need like quite extreme stuff to just fully switch off, and then I'm like, oh, and it makes me feel so good afterwards because it's exercise and I've learned something new, and I feel like I've like achieved something. So that's
Yeah, 100%. And being out in nature, that's the great
oh
thing
yeah,
about the ocean as well, is that it's forever changing. So you do have to
yeah,
watch.
oh
Like
yeah,
you can't just zone out. I mean, you could,
yeah.
but
You don't. You're like, sometimes I'd not feel like going in the sea. I'm like, I can't be bothered. But then I'm like, just go it, right? Just go in. Once you're in, you know you're going to love it. And then you go in and then that's it.
yeah,
You're just so focused and it doesn't matter what's going on in your mind. Because like you say, it's dangerous. You're like,
yeah,
I
you've
can't
got to
switch
be
off here.
present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. So, to cultivate more dopamine myself, I've been noticing the glimmers, so the micro joys in each day. Have you got a micro joy of today that you would like to share?
Do you know what? Every morning it's just walking the dog on the beach. I love
Oh,
taking him because I got my dog like 10 months ago now. He's just turned one, and he gives me focus as well, because I have to get because I live in a van as well, and I just get straight out of the van because he needs a wee. 6 o'clock in the morning, he's scratching at the door. Come on, mum, toilet time. He gets me up before the sun comes up, like, so we're on the beach,
yeah.
it's dark, and then the sun comes up, and it's so nice just being out. I love
Oh,
being up
that's
before the sun.
magical.
Yeah.
How long have you been living in a van?
So I lived in a van years ago when I first started Lucy Yak for a couple of years, and then And then when Lucy and Yak took off, I ended up buying a flat in Brighton, and I just never loved it. I was like, it's just not me being in this box. I like being able to move around. I mean, again, that's probably an ADHD. I'm like, I can't stay in one place for very long.
No.
So I've ended up, I moved into the van at the start of last year, and I've just been I've been in it for winter as well. It's the first winter I've spent in it, and it's just,
How's that
do you
been?
know what? It's been fine. It's like you really acclimatise. It's not been too cold actually this winter, but where it's been like, I mean, it might be where you are in Scotland, but
Oh, it bloody is, yeah.
south, it's like the worst we've had is about -3 in the middle of the night. But then it was so funny because we had like a week where it was like -3 in the middle of the night, and I didn't have any heating, so I was freezing. But then the week after it was 12 degrees, and now I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
I'm sweating, like, 'cause your body's got so used to like the temperature. It just acclimatizes. It's mad. And now if I'm like in a building and the heating's on, I'm like, what's going on? I'm sweating.
It's so funny because I really relate. Like, I don't feel an affinity with houses. Like, we got this house and I had this amazing opportunity to do it up all how I wanted, and I did it and I love it and it's lovely. But I'm just like, and now what? I just sit in it. I don't get it.
Yeah, now once you've decorated it, you're like, all right, well, that was fun. But now what am I doing? I like the excitement of finding the house, decorating the house. But now you're like, right, now I just live in a house. I don't know.
Now what? Yeah,
Now I'm tied to
totally.
this
I'd love,
place.
my husband would love to live in a van as well.
Yeah,
We would love to live in a van.
it is great.
Yeah, I bet. If your ADHD was a song, what song would it be?
Right, I found this question so hard because, do you know, one of my biggest things that I used to have when I was younger was music. I was like, I don't know enough about music. I can't think of a song. I was thinking probably Rizzle Kicks Always Late because song is like always late, and I'm literally late for everything. So
That is perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you. So what is the most ADHD thing you've done this week? We already said it was rescheduling to sit in the car again.
It was this, because we tried to do this podcast a couple of times and I forgot to put it in my diary. You forgot to send me a link. And then we had it in for last week, didn't we? And I was, oh no, the start of this week. And I was like, I'm driving, so I'll have to pull over beside the road. And then so I'll rearrange it for today. And then I'm now driving again and I'm beside the road.
It's wonderful how we get anything done, Lucy, but we do. We do. And do you know what? I think the acoustics are fantastic in your car. And I'm very grateful that Louis is there too. Everyone's a winner. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Is there anything we haven't covered or anything that you would like to talk about in more depth?
No, nothing I can think of, no.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm very, very excited and grateful that you have shared your self-diagnosed ADHD with us. And I'm even more grateful as well that you're letting us have a little discount code, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So it's Leopard Print Army. After our activism escapades, the Leopard Print Army is the code to be used on leopard print items.
Yes. Yeah. We've got quite a lot of them now. We've put that leopard print on everything. We've got a bit mad with the leopard print.
Honestly, there's never enough.
We're going leopard print mad.
It's brilliant. So, because the leopard is the symbol of Aberdeen, and it also symbolises bravery and the reclaiming of power. And I'm just obsessed with leopard print. My other business, I make people wear leopard print on the Sunday of every festival. So that's the thing, leopards. And so then now it's become a thing and it's like uniform. So then that's when I started to do the campaigning. It's like, right, well, we're the Leopard Print Army. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
And then some people are like, so why is ADHD and leopard print a thing? I'm just like, oh no, that's ADHD AF.
That's just us.
Just us for do it. I love it. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for the Leopard Print Army code. I'm so excited. And it's just really lovely to speak to you. And honestly, I know that everyone in the community is going to be like, so yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. For your amazing designs, your amazing positivity, and your amazing message. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.
What an absolute ledge Lucy is. As if we didn't already know or suspect that. She truly is an absolute wonder. I'm so grateful to Lucy for giving me her time, sharing her safari with us, and for the discount code. So Leopard Print Army, all in uppercasing, I think. I don't have that confirmed. Try it both ways. But Leopard Print Army for a discount on all leopard print items of Lucy and Yak. How exciting is that? So thank you to Lucy and thank you to Yak. Thank you to Lucy and Yak. I related so much in that interview. from truency to travelling to raving and the rest, I think one of the really important themes that Lucy highlights is, of course, privilege. You know, not everybody has the privilege that they can just fuck off travelling and find themselves. And it's a really fortunate thing to be able to do. But that's why it's so wonderful that Lucy acknowledges that and is using her voice and her platform to spread the word for everybody. And you know, I love a nerdy quote. So I found this one. It's not really what I was looking for, and I don't actually know the source because it isn't stated, but it says, "It is a privilege to have a voice and be heard, so let us use it to advocate for those who are silenced." And that's what I'm doing. So obviously I was privileged enough to get access to private diagnosis through my husband's work, which I otherwise would never be able to afford. And when I saw how quick and easy that process was, and the fact that getting that information, validation, and medical support literally did save my life. So that's why I've been on this mission ever since these last couple of years to advocate for those that can't, because ADHD assessment should not be a privilege or a postcode lottery. It should be available to all, and the statistics speak for themselves. So I'm a bit embarrassed and a bit sad that I've been stalling on releasing this, not season 3, and using my privilege and my voice to advocate as I set out to do. But the thing to remember here is the trick's in the title. I really am ADHD AF. I have it too. And it will trip me up just as it will trip us all up. And thank goodness that I have people around me that have been able to support me, such as Megan Burke's coaching, who first made me realise, midlife empowerment coach Kim Pierpoint in the last episode, who helped me work through that, Ali Mack, who literally keeps me upright and forward facing and is the glue that keeps us all together here at ADHD AF. So coaching definitely works. If you're in a privileged position and able to access that, those coaches, or some of those coaches, including Zoe Joanna Coaching, are part of the ADHDF peer support community, offering support within there in all the different realms. So do come and join us. If you are not able to and you are struggling, there are all sorts of free groups on Facebook, on Discord, and there is a link in the blurb of this episode to all different kinds of support. So do reach out if you are in need, because you are not alone. Thank you again to Lucy. So grateful to her. So excited to go and use the Leopard Print Army discount code. And I'm so grateful to Sessions Services, our Pat, who has sorted my life out with his technical wizardry and good ears. Mine are rubbish. I can't hear very well. And speaking of hearing, I have a lovely little thing called auditory processing disorder, which means that it's not necessarily that I can't hear what's being said. It's about hearing with the brain, so to speak. So it's my brain processing the words and the message not getting between my ears and my brain, something like that. Anyway, this isn't a science podcast, it's experiential. But I want to introduce a new segment to this not new season called Auditory Processing Corner, when I tell you the most ridiculous thing I've misheard this week. So I thought that my husband called me swan tits, which he didn't, obviously. And what's funnier about that still is that I immediately had to Google whether or not swans had tits. And, you know, as some of us like a fact, I know a lot of us love a nerdy fact and will leap onto our phones at a moment's notice to Google what our inquisitive minds wants to know. Just to save you the job, birds do not have nipples, as they are not mammals. Although we talk about birds' breasts, they don't have mammary glands, which mammals use to feed their young milk. Here the term breast is used to describe the pectoral muscles birds use for flight. So there you go, you're welcome. So yes, thank you to Pat. Check out his incredible services. I hope you love the new jingle and all of that business. I'm super excited to be back using this platform for what it was intended, using my privilege. And it is a privilege and an honour to be able to do this. Thank you to all of you who voted for me to win the, what was it? Positive role model. What? National Diversity Awards. In the National Diversity Awards, there we go. Thank you so, so much. Do you know what I've done? I've literally screenshotted all of your lovely words and I've got them on my phone to help with that RSD, those really shit daydreams. So to try and help me out of the tight spots that I get into daily and sometimes hourly. It's all fun and games, but I will leave you there. So thank you very, very much for listening. And I'm so excited to see those of you joining tonight in Brum. I'm so excited to be at Tonight, Josephine. The Birmingham crowd are always legendary. Let me tell you a little something about the Birmingham crowd. So in the Too Much tour, I had a joke, which was when I first started doing this podcast, I would forget that we were recording, genuinely would, and just be lost in conversation. And then when we'd play it back, I'd be like, oh gosh, I swear all the time. I shouldn't be swearing like that. That's not okay. We can't put that out. And then I would think to myself, well, why can't I swear? And I would say, well, first of all, it's not very professional. And second of all, it's not very ladylike. And then I'd be counting on my fingers. So I'd have 2 fingers up like I was swearing and then just blow raspberries and swear at everybody. But in Birmingham, when I said, and second of all, it's not very ladylike, the crowd booed, like literally roared. I was like, oh my God, these people are fucking amazing. I'm so excited for tonight. I'll stop talking now. Join myself, Ali McDonald, and Nicole Nadler, who is performing a preview of her Edinburgh Fringe show, Why Am I Still Like This?, at every show. And then we're joined by local legends at each event. All of the details are in the link of the blurb of this episode. And I'm just, super excited. Apologies for delay in getting this out. Actually, I'm not going to apologise because I tell people not to apologise all the time. It is what it is. We're all up against it. We're all doing our best and we all need each other to help us when we trip up. Anyway, big love and thanks to Lucy. Le Prenomi.